What's going on, guys? You're in with Tech, and welcome to another top 5. It's not a top 5. Welcome to the very first top 8, because today, with the end of my Eeveelutions, I decided it would only be fitting to do a countdown of my favorite Eeveelutions. Now, I almost feel like I'm ranking my children by doing this, as I've actually grown quite fond of these Pokemon over the past month. But let's be honest here, every parent with multiple kids has their favorites. Although I'm sure if you have siblings that you're definitely the favorite, so no need to worry. Although if you're watching this with your brother or sister, well, this is kind of awkward. Now, this list will include Sylveon only out of fairness, and the fact that I actually do like Sylveon. Plus, when I drew the picture of all the Eeveelutions for the series, people complained that Sylveon was excluded, and it actually made me feel bad. I can tell you right now that a lot of people will disagree with my list, so I highly encourage you all to tell me what your own list is. Of course, I strongly recommend you all tell me why you like or dislike each Pokemon, but that's completely up to you. Now, we have a lot of Pokemon to go over, so let's not waste any more time and start this off with the Eeveelution who came in at the bottom of this list. Number 8. Jolteon. If I had to pick an Eeveelution I like the least, it would be Jolteon. Although that's probably pretty obvious considering its place on this list. I didn't think about that part. Don't get me wrong, Jolteon is a great Pokemon. It's the 6th fastest Pokemon in the entire series, and the 4th Pokemon if you don't count Deoxys taking up 3 spaces. Plus it has a very nice special attack to boot. But sadly, I've never gotten a lot of use out of Jolteon before. It doesn't have the best move pool in the world, learning mainly electric type attacks, and most of the useful moves it does get that aren't electric are mainly physical. But the thing that probably gets me the most is its design. A lot of the Eeveelutions look cuddly and cute, but Jolteon just never looked that appealing to me. Maybe it's just the porcupine-like spikes, but I've never been super excited to see it. Not that I get excited to see other Pokemon. Besides Caterpie, of course. Overall, Jolteon does its job perfectly if you need a speedy Pokemon that can hit really hard with Thunder. Besides that, I really just don't see any use for it. Number 7. Umbreon. Now, if you've ever watched my videos, you're likely aware that I'm basically an all-out attacker. I don't like to stall, I don't like to stat boost, I just enjoy going all out with powerful attacks. And Umbreon is the complete opposite of everything I enjoy. Umbreon is the wall of the Eeveelutions, having very few offensive capabilities but being fantastic at taking hits and stalling your opponents. So if Umbreon is such a polar opposite of myself, why is it still ranked higher than Jolteon? Well, I actually enjoy using Umbreon. Both Midna and Moonlight from my past series have been very valuable assets to my teams, and I've gone on to use them in Wi-Fi teams as well. Plus, I actually enjoy Umbreon's design. It's extremely simple, but still really cute. Plus, every time I get to use one, I get nostalgia from playing Coliseum as a kid, so that helps as well. Number 6. Flareon. Ah, the mighty false prophet. When in the right hands, Flareon could be a monster. And in the right hands, I mean anyone besides Nintendo, as for 5 generations they did everything they could to try and hold Flareon down. Yet when you play hacks, it shows just how much of a monster Flareon can be. Luckily, Nintendo finally broke and gave Flareon the gift of Flare Blitz in 6th generation, over 7 years after the move was introduced. Looking past that, Flareon can still be a powerhouse though. With Guts, Facade, and Superpower, you have a decent move pool, even if it is extremely small. Moving on to Flareon's design, it strongly reminds me of a poodle though. And I don't like poodles. But I admit that Flareon is still cute. But it never really stood out to me, it just seemed kinda boring. But Sugar Plumps and Eeveeon have made me grow fond of Flareon, and honestly I like it a lot more now than I did before I started all of this. Number 5. Sylveon. We're getting to the point where I don't have nearly as many negative things to say now, apart from Sylveon's evolution method. But that's really more of a complaint about X and Y in general, as I felt a lot of the new evolution methods were really just stupid. But I understand that they had to push Pokemon on me somehow, and I personally don't use it outside of Sylveon anyways, so I guess it worked. Sylveon though might be my favorite Pokemon to use competitively. I've had one on my X and Y Showdown team ever since I built it, and it does an amazing job. It has the same special defense as Umbreon, but it can actually deal out reliable damage, albeit at the sacrifice of physical defense. Of course, I absolutely hate facing Sylveons, although a big part of that is because of my inexperience with fairies, because I'm just not used to fighting them. Except with fighting types, because I know that is a no-no. I've personally named my Sylveon Navi because I know it's great at annoying my enemies, so despite the fact that Sylveon was just recently introduced, I'm already a big fan of it. Number 4, Espeon. If Umbreon is the dedicated tank, then Espeon is the complete opposite. While it does carry decent special defense, Espeon is extremely fast and can hit extremely hard. Espeon is probably the evolution that I've had the least experience with, sadly. Outside of Coliseum, I've never really had the opportunity to choose one, or I felt a different evolution would be more useful. Although, Espeon does have the unique privilege of being the only Pokemon to be used twice in my Eeveelock due to a fan poll that it completely destroyed. And for good reason. Espeon is also a fan favorite of the Pokemon community, likely because of its cute, sleek design and overall usefulness. While Game Freak did try to hold back a lot of Espeon's siblings, they pretty much gave this one everything it needed to rule. Espeon is definitely one of the most useful evolutions overall, and definitely one that I enjoy using. Number 3, Glaceon. Now, just out of guilt, I should probably make Glaceon number 1 on this list, because I may have accidentally killed it. And the fact that the Pokemon that did cause it to die still hasn't appeared on this list is probably just adding salt to the wound. But I actually do really enjoy Glaceon, although it's probably more for its design than its usefulness. And fun fact, Glaceon is one of the very few Pokemon that I actually prefer the shiny version of. Overall, Glaceon may not be the best evolution due to its typing, which isn't exactly good, but I still prefer it over a lot of the other ones simply because it's adorable! While I would never use one competitively, I'm always more than willing to use one in a casual playthrough and Ice Beam everything to death. Number 2, Leafeon. Take everything I love about Glaceon and add it to Leafeon. It's basically the physical counterpart to the Ice type, and boy does it do a good job. Leafeon was a staple on my NU team back in the 5th gen days because Swords Dance, Return, X-Scissor, and Leaf Blade was just too good of a combination. Plus, it's the only evolution who has its highest stat in defense. So not only could it deal out a ton of damage after a Swords Dance boost, but it could take hits for days and heal off the damage with Synthesis if you decide to go with that. If you don't have any special attackers that resist all of its moves, you may be in a lot of trouble. Add in the fact that I personally think Leafeon is the cutest of all of the evolutions, and there's no reason why I wouldn't rank it up this high on the list. And finally, number 1, Vaporeon. Okay, first and foremost, Vaporeon isn't here because it was the sole survivor of my Eeveelock. Now, let's just take a second to step back and have a serious conversation here. Vaporeon may very well be the best evolution overall. It has the bulk to basically stop it from being one-shotted by anything, and the special attack to deal tons of damage. Vaporeon's typing gives it only 2 weaknesses, Grass and Electric. It can easily cover its Grass weakness with Ice Beam or Blizzard, so that just leaves the Electric types for it to deal with. That means Vaporeon can handle a lot of different Pokemon. Plus, I've probably used it more than anything else. Every time I play through a game that's had an Eevee available, I'll more than often go the route of Vaporeon, just because of how useful it is. In my honest opinion, I believe Vaporeon is the best evolution overall, and when you add in my emotional connection to it because of Slushy and Demix, and you can obviously see why it is my favorite. So guys, that wraps up the special extended top 5 as we covered all the different evolutions. Did you agree or disagree with anything I said? Well then make your voice heard. I'm hoping to start doing these countdowns at least once a week, so that's something to look forward to. Until I likely forget about this next week. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more in the future, the best way you can show your support is to click the like button down below because it really does help. But that is going to wrap it up for us today guys. Until next time, I'm Hardy Yo-Yo. Peace!